Are we live? Hello, guys. I am Alicia Hartzell, and this is Awakening to Your Story, the YouTube page, formerly known as Awakening to Your Story TV. This is the place to be supported, get inspired, and find heart centered solutions for your everyday life. And today we are going to talk about a wonderful topic that I hear and get asked about all the time. And that is what to do when you aren't getting the love that you want. Now, this is love in any form and fashion, right? Like the human experience is fundamentally based on love relationships between people, even strangers. How we interact with strangers really has a lot to do with whether or not we are in a place of love within ourselves and they are in a place of love within themselves. And that kind of goes back and forth. So, whether you're experiencing a lack of the love that you want in a love relationship, in a relationship with a parent, a sibling, a friend, in your workspace, or you're just going through some sort of bumpy situation with a person in your life, what we're going to talk about today will actually help you navigate that and show up in a way that ushers in getting the love that you want. So, we're going to talk about 3 steps to getting the love that you want. But before we talk about those, I want to go over a couple things that I want you to keep in mind as we go through those 3 steps. The first thing is that not everybody is going to be able to love you the way that you want to be loved. Not everybody's going to be able to interact with you the way you want them to interact with you. And that's a very important thing to keep in mind as we're going through these steps, right? The second thing I want you to keep in mind as we're going through all these steps is that someone's inability to love you, it doesn't say anything about you, right? Often we think that if somebody can't love us, that says something about us. But I'm here to clarify for you. If someone's inability to love you or communicate with you or do whatever in that love language relationship, if they can't do that, that does not say anything about you. So we're going to keep that in mind as we're going through the 3 steps. Now, the last thing I want you to keep in mind as we go through these 3 steps is that it's not just about getting the love that you want, it's about co-creating the love that you want and creating the love that you want. Often, if we focus on getting the love that we want, we're plugged into the other person. And there's not a lot of power for us there, right? There's not a lot of power for us to create change there. So remember, it's not about getting, it is about creating. I know it's a small tweak in language, but those small tweaks in language actually create a lot of difference in the big grand scale of what you're trying to experience, right? Okay, so I am going to go through these 3 steps and I've got some notes. I took these notes, and the basis and the outline of this video is linked back to the Awakening to Your Story blog, where you can get a ton more information. There's more supplemental images and handouts and all sorts of stuff over there. So if you feel like you need more information than what we're talking about here, go over to awakeningtoyourstory.com and find the blog. I'll put it in the comments below so you can link right over to it. It will really help if you can hear it and read it and see it. The more you focus here, the better you're going to feel and the easier it is going to be to get that love that you want. So, step number 1 is to shift your focus back to your own heart. Now, I'm always going to advocate for this because your heart is really where you have power. Your story is really where you have power. And so often the tendency is to focus on the other people. And like I said before, focusing on the other people doesn't really offer you that much power. So if you fall into that trap about focusing on them, what they're not doing, how they're interacting with you, how they're mistreating you, how they're holding the love or the communication or whatever you want from them hostage, you've got to stop looking out there and start looking in here. And I know that's a hard tendency to break. Um, I know this because the only reason I can talk to this topic is because I've been there. I've had to trudge through dynamics with love relationships and people in my life that were painful. I've dealt with codependent relationships. I've been in them. I've been consumed by them. I've been in emotionally, physically, and sexually abusive relationships. I've been in them. I wanted to make it about the other person. I've been in and still am in relationship with narcissists, and it can be very challenging when you are focused on them. You have no power there. And I perpetuated that cycle of pain for myself by keeping my attention on them because I don't have any power there. So, me looking at them, asking them, telling them, trying to control what they offer me and how they love me, it didn't do anything for me. It didn't serve anything for me. And it sure as heck didn't change anything for me. So the only place I had power was in my heart and story. And I had way more power than I ever gave myself credit for because I was looking in the wrong place, right? I was looking at them and I had no power there. And the minute I started looking in here, got endless power, endless opportunity. And it was a huge game changer for me, right? So I will always advocate for you to shift your focus back to your heart. So that's number one, shift your focus back to your own heart. Now, the step one action that you can take, because I want to give you actionables that will make this a real experience for you, is to just watch your thoughts and feelings. Now, I know that sounds easy and it sounds simple, but you got to do it. You got to show up. You got to think about it. You got to witness your thoughts. You got to witness your focus, right? When you notice yourself focusing on them, just acknowledge it, right? Don't resist, just acknowledge it and then create the shift. Consciously bring your thoughts back to yourself and your own story. Now, here are a few statements that will help you as you're trying to do this. It's not about them, it's about my heart, right? If I have to choose a thought about them or a thought about me, I'm going to start choosing thoughts about me, right? That's so powerful. I have no power in that thought. So I will choose a thought that offers me power, right? And those help kind of cut that tie that you have to focusing on them and plugging into the place where you don't actually have power and shifting yourself back. Oh, no, just one thought. Okay. Ooh, there you go. Oh, there you go. I mean, I'll be on conversations with people in my life who I know don't have the capacity to show up in the way that I want them to show up and love in the way that I want them to love. And so when I start focusing on the brain, it goes where it goes. If I start focusing on them too much and I start feeling those pangs of misalignment within myself because I'm focusing outward rather than inward, I go, oh, wait, not about them. Turn it back. Do they have the capacity? Nope, maybe not. It's okay. Bring it back home. Bring it back home, right? Your life shifts and changes one thought and one feeling at a time. And when you stop thinking and feeling according to the outside sources around you, life's a game changer. Okay? So that's one. Now, two, you have to define and create ownership for what you want. This is my favorite part. So, this is after you shift your focus back to your own heart. This is where the powerhouse stuff starts to happen. Okay. You get to let yourself daydream about what you want. And this is a huge thing that I think we so often miss because we focus on what is rather than what is possible. And the minute you offer yourself the space to think about what it is you want, the minute you start to allow it to come into your space, right? So you get to daydream about it, you get to think about it, you get to give yourself a thought party about getting the love that you want. Whatever relationship it's in, whether it's with a parent, whether it's with a lover, whether it's with a best friend or just an outside friend, no matter what it is, what kind of love dynamic you're trying to create, let yourself go there, right? Give yourself a thought party. Let your heart really take it to the depths. So when you give yourself a thought party, you let yourself daydream. You let yourself go all the way there. You watch it in your mind's eye like it's playing out like a movie where you get what you want, whatever that looks like. What does that love look like for you that you're wanting? Let it play out. Now, don't get attached to what it looks like. Don't get attached to the outcome. Just feel the feelings of what it is that you want to feel. If you're doing it for a lover, whether that's a lover you have now who may or may not have the capacity to do that, or if it's a lover that you want in the future that you don't have yet, don't be attached to a specific person giving it to you. Just allow yourself to daydream about what it would feel like to get it. If it's with a parent, what would it feel like to get the kind of love that you want from that person? If it's with a sibling, what would it feel like to get that kind of interaction with them? Or maybe not them. Maybe that interaction that you're looking for, that love that you're looking for, will come from a different source. But the minute you start daydreaming about it and you start allowing every cell of your being to align with it, you are creating ownership for it to be able to happen, right? So you're basically telling your entire neurological system, every cell in your being, that you are ready for it to come in from the outside source because you've created it within yourself. Now, I know that sounds a little bit silly, but I've actually been doing thought parties for myself more regularly. And not only am I creating room for the things that I want to come into my life, it makes me feel so freaking good because you're set into that optimistic place of what's possible. And whether it shows up exactly one way or exactly another, you have the essence and the feeling of it within yourself. And that is an enthusiastic, joyful place to be, right? So remember, it's not about what is, it's about what's possible. And step two, action, is to create time and space for those thought parties, right? So if you're a morning person, find a way to filter it into your morning routine. Do it in the shower, do it while you're having your cup of coffee. If you have a long drive, set a timer and do it on your drive. If you're an evening person, do it at night. Cozy up. And instead of just reading a book or watching a show, set a little timer and allow yourself to daydream. And notice if you drift off into something else. Every once in a while, I'll do it. And I'll find myself drifting off into what is and like a worst case scenario of something. And I just notice it and go, okay, no, this is our time to daydream about what's possible. Higher level thinking. Allow yourself to really let that prefrontal cortex, that higher level thinking, just rise into the thought party, right? Let it be based there. And just shift your mind back and keep building that place of possibility with joy and enthusiasm. See yourself getting it. And remember that consistency is going to be helpful in anything that you're doing, trying to create space for, right? Whether it's working out or eating healthy or getting out and going a walk, consistency helps you create a pattern. And the more you create a pattern for embracing the feelings that you want to have, embracing that love that you want to have for yourself, the easier it's going to flow right into your life. Okay? Okay. Step 3 is establishing your worthiness of having it. Now, I know this sounds like super silly. Of course, I'm worthy of having the love that I want. Of course. But here's the tricky thing. Often we say, of course, we're worthy of something. And then we go around and we think 10 things that chip away at that belief. And it's sneaky. Those limiting beliefs are so freaking sneaky. So you got to watch them, right? So when you read or think about your worthiness, do you really know what that is? Because often we think about our worthiness as being something that is told to us from outside sources, right? We get validation for ourselves from outside sources. And then when those outside sources go away, our worthiness and our value is a little unstable, right? So let's talk about this worthiness factor for a little bit so that we can really build some language around what the truth of your worth really is, that worthiness factor really is. Now, there are endless ways to talk about and express what I'm about to say. So, if you have your own belief system, just layer it over what I'm saying. Or if you like my belief system and the way that I'm using language, just adopt it as your own. Either way, because there's lots of ways you can talk about this. But your divinity, the part of your being that is connected to source energy, set your humanity into motion. You came here to create an experience as a human being, but it's your divinity that came first. Now, no matter how messy your humanity may get, your divinity, it stays constant. It doesn't shift, it doesn't change. It's that divine part of you that holds your essential truth and is where you find your worthiness. Now, to establish your worthiness, you have to turn inward past your messy human parts and experience that stillness of who you truly are. Now, it's there in that feeling, in that worthiness, in that place deep inside of yourself that you will feel your significance. It's there in that light of your divinity that everything is possible for you. Your lineage of divine love, that omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent expression of love, that is source energy. As you take that love back into your humanity, that lineage of love right back into your humanity, you're going to understand your value at the table of humanity, your unique expression of life at the table of humanity. And it's in that place that you will truly settle into your worthiness. It doesn't come from any outside source. It comes straight from within your being. Now, as you create, you've got that entire lineage of divine love behind you, where everything is possible. When you stop looking externally for some outside source to prove your worthiness or your value, or you stop adopting somebody else's limiting beliefs and limited space as your own, or you stop questioning it because they aren't showing up the way you want them to show up, and you really allow yourself to sit in that place of who you truly are, all that human messiness gets real quiet. And you get to step into the place where, of course, you're worthy of having the love that you want. If you can claim it and create a space for it to be there and be in that heart aligned space for yourself, then it will show up. It will be created for you in your space, right? So, step three's action is to really create ownership for your worthiness. So, connect to that divine space within yourself and build a relationship there. Tap into it daily, right? Sit in it, get real comfortable with it. And if you're pulled to focus on them, just get quiet into that deep place within yourself first, right? That deep place of pure worth, pure value, pure significance, just as you are. Okay? So we've got the 3 steps and the 3 to dos. Right? Step 1, shift your focus back to your heart. Step 2, divine and create ownership for what you want. Step 3, establish that you are worthy of having it. And those 3 steps will really usher in, it'll create a space for it to be. And then it'll allow the universe to help you just draw it right in. And this works for all sorts of things, not just getting the love that you want, but creating space for anything to happen. So we have a question. When do I confront the person about getting the love that I want? Okay, well, I would say it would depend, right? I think confronting is probably a language that's got a little resistance to it. And so, one, I would look back and see, does that person have the capacity to hear you? One, because if the person doesn't have the capacity to hear you, you're setting yourself up to fail. You're setting yourself up to perpetuate the cycle because your focus is externally. When you can, from that place, moving through these 3 things, sit in a place of honesty with yourself and say, am I going to interact with this person from a place of reaction where I'm trying to prove something, or I'm trying to get them to admit to something that they've held love hostage for me, or that they weren't doing what I wanted them to do, or whatever that may be. When you get to a place where it's not about that and it's about creating, then I would say communicate with them, because communication, if the person that you have the love relationship with, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a friend, a lover, whoever it may be, communication is key. It's huge, right? Communicating is such a value add. But you have to understand all of the dynamics, right? If you're communicating to validate yourself, if you're communicating to them to try to make them do something that they're not capable of doing, again, you're setting yourself up to fail because you're communicating with them with the focus on them. And that's not a place where you have power. And trust me, I've done it. Learn from my places of struggle. I've tried to talk to the narcissist about seeing me and communicating with me and doing all the things. It does not work. I've tried being in a codependent relationship and trying to make them, do something the way that I want it to be done. It doesn't work. When you communicate with them from that place of you focusing on them, you're not going to co-create what you want. So instead, go through these 3 steps. Make it about your heart first. Make it about shifting back to your heart, defining what you want, making room for it, thinking about it, and then knowing that you're worthy of having it. When you do that first, you may find out you don't need to communicate with them, that it doesn't really, your happiness and what you want doesn't really have anything to do with them. It has to do with you making it for yourself, and then they show up or they don't. But if from that place within yourself you go, oh, you know what? I want to co-create something with you that's really magical. Let's talk about that, right? So if you have your lover and you're like, oh, they won't do this and they can't do this, and why aren't they seeing me? Why aren't they treating me well? Why aren't they knowing what I do? Like in my daily life, they don't see what I do. Do the 3 steps, get back into your heart. Know you're worthy of having somebody see you and value you because you're seeing and valuing yourself. Feel it. What would it feel like to have that? You've had the thought parties, and then maybe you'll have an inspired idea to go, hey, you know what, babe? Let's talk about the things that we love about each other. This is how I see you. This is how I see you. How do you see me? What do you see that I do? And then you've co-created a place where you're not asking them to do something or fill something within you. You're just co-creating an experience. You're just co-creating a love language and dynamic, right? Okay. Do you have any other questions? No? Okay. If you have more questions, feel free to comment on this video. I spend a lot of time during my day commenting and replying back. I'm here to help you in any way that I can. If you have a specific situation going on in your life and you need just a little extra support, a little cheerleading along the way, tell me about it. I can't wait to hear what's going on in your world and help you in any way that I can. I will say you can head over to the blog at awakeningtoyourstory.com. I will absolutely link that in the comments or the description of this video. It's got more in-depth information about everything that we talked about. And I want you to know that I am holding a place of such deep love for you where you are getting the love that you want, no matter what relationship it's in. So subscribe to the channel. Come meet me again next week. I can't wait to see your comments, hear how your life is going. And until then, I am sending you and holding so much love for you. And I will talk to you soon.